You are not only the face of God, the body of God, the life of God. You are the I am that I am. And I believe you are seeing an image right now that is the Hebrew word for God, sometimes pronounced Yahweh. And you see 4 letters that are actually vertically lined up that are Yad, He, Vav, He. And if you notice, those letters are in the shape of human form. They're the outline of the human body. And that is a practice in our book, The Sacred Art of Practicing Loving Kindness, that Rabbi Rame Shapiro offers as a way to begin to embody the truth that you are the face and the body and the life of God, the I am that I am. And he says, not only are we the image of God, but as it says in Genesis, we are the image and the likeness of God. But the inherent image of God that we are, the life of God that we are, the face and body of God that we are, it is a choice to be the likeness of God. You are born the image of God, and it is a choice to be the likeness of God. And so, as we begin our compassion series this month, we are beginning to practice not only the prayer practice that we've been engaged in together for the last 30 days, but now we begin the embodiment practice. We practice together these spiritual principles, one of which is compassion, because compassion is a living principle. Kindness, loving kindness, is an active principle of God. It's not just the picture of God that we each are. It is the choice to be the likeness of God. Eco-theologian Thomas Berry wrote, "We will not save what we do not love, and we will neither love nor save what we do not experience as sacred." Think about that for a moment. What do you love? What do you consider sacred? Put it in the feed. What do you love? What's sacred to you? Because one of the things that I'm aware of is the practice of compassion grows from love. And when we acknowledge what we love, what we believe is sacred, we can then realize that that tends to be the places we extend kindness, compassion. But I find in this context, right, in the context of love your neighbor, treat others as you would like to be treated, which runs through every faith tradition, right? Every single global faith tradition has some teaching around treat others like you want to be treated. It's called the golden thread, the golden rule. But what that brings me back to is, do we believe we are sacred? Do you believe that you are the face of God? Because we can't actually extend that compassion and that kindness and that love out if we do not first believe that we are each it. And I often laugh to myself about, I like this idea that we treat others how we want to be treated ourselves. But I don't always want you to treat me the way you're treating yourself. I don't always want you to love me like you love you. Because we get our stuff in the way, right? We get in the way with these misbeliefs and these misunderstandings of who we actually are and what we are actually made of. And I don't know about you, but this time of social distancing and staying home has confronted me with myself in a way I haven't had to spend time with in a long time. And you may, like me, be confronted with all of the noise in your own head. All of the wildly uncomfortable stuff that can be pushed aside when we're in our busy, when we're traveling here and there. But I'm finding part of the invitation of this pause, of this time, is to figure out how to be with the wholeness of myself. Anybody else feeling confronted by their own stuff in this moment? Is the volume turned up on that critical voice? On that nagging voice? On the lying voices we find in our own heads? And I'm going to read again from eco-theologian Thomas Berry. We will not save what we do not love, and we will neither love nor save what we do not experience as sacred. So whether we're thinking about saving the planet, saving humanity, saving ourselves, if we do not consider ourselves worthy of love, but you don't consider yourself sacred, you may not be willing or able or hear the call of your own saving. And saving for me means I acknowledge the wholeness of my whole being to be wrapped in the love that is available to me in every moment. I acknowledge the worthiness of my whole self, crazy talk in my head or not. And when I do that, when I welcome my entire self into my own loving embrace, I'm saving myself. And in the acknowledgement of the I am that I am, that the very Word of God is shaped like me, I am able to then be a presence of that love. I am able then to expand my consciousness, expand my reach to include others. Because if I am the shape of God, the Word of God, the life of God, so are you. If I am made in the image and likeness of God, so are you. And when I can look at myself in the mirror, like JD asked us to do, and look and see the face of God, I can then walk out into the world and look into the faces of all I come into contact with and see that face of God there. That is the seed of compassion and loving kindness. 13th century Kabbalist and Jewish mystic Abraham Abulafia wrote, "Behold, you are God and God is you. For you are so intimately adhering to God that you cannot by any means be separate from God. For you are God. See now that I, even I, am God. You, even you, are God." We've been talking about this in our human existence for a long time. That was a 13th century quote. Compassion and kindness is the way we begin to embody this truth, to make real this truth. And I know when we are confronted with our own barriers to feeling this truth, to embodying this truth in a way that actually feels true, where it's not just a little cute post-it affirmation stuck on the mirror, we must be willing to sit with the whole picture, the whole body of God. You know, one of the reasons why we lit the candle this morning, acknowledging and saying out loud the devastations and loss of this crisis, is we cannot cherry pick the picture of reality. We cannot close our eyes to the whole truth. Because when we do that, we reduce our capacity to practice compassion, to grow our hearts big enough to love the entirety of life. The Dalai Lama in The Ethics for a New Millennium has a whole chapter on compassion as an ethical practice. And he talks about a Buddhist practice and tenet that is achieving great compassion. But in that, he says, yes, the goal, the aspiration, is to have our compassion reach out to the entire universe unconditionally. That we are able to inherently love and practice kindness with all that is. That's what we aspire to, great compassion. But I know how hard that is, because if we don't make real the entire universe, how can we then love it? How can we feel love for the global experience when we don't actually have a connection to it? And so one of the things I've been thinking about a lot this week is think global, love local. Love right where we are, right in what's in front of us, what we can touch, what we can feel, what we can interact with, what we can make real for ourselves, so that this embodying of truth becomes less theory, less thought, and more experience. I want to share something I found from John Halstead, who is a former eco-activist and writer and teacher. And he's a former eco-activist because he realized that all the activism he had been participating in, all the marching, all the organizing, had created a disconnect from the very thing he was trying to save. He had lost touch with the earth itself, with the ground he was standing on. And here's what he said. Love is always specific. Most of us cannot love the whales any more than we can love a stranger, because we don't interact with them regularly. We can love the beings, human and other, with whom we are in direct relation. We cannot love the earth because we cannot have a relationship with the planet any more than we can have a relationship with humankind. It's too big. But we can love the place where we are and the people who live there. We can love the place where we are and the people who live there. And I believe it begins with ourselves. Can you love the place where you are right now? The chair you're sitting in, the bed you may be laying on, the couch you are sharing with a beloved. Can you love this place right here, right now? Can that be the beginning of your circle of reach? Your circle of compassion and kindness? Can you put that mirror in front of your face and unapologetically love what's there right now? With the extra 10 COVID pounds? With the hair you haven't washed because you can't remember the last time you took a shower? Can you love you and the place you are in right now? That is where it begins. I'm reminded of that saying, You can't go clean up your neighbor's yard if your yard is a mess. We have to start where we are. Always aspiring to including the entire universe and beyond in our circle of love. But we must be in relationship with it. So it begins in our own being. And in that recognition, in that embodiment, in that making it real, that, oh my God, even I am God. And when we recognize that, and holy cow, because if I am, you are, and they are, and my neighbor is, and the sweethearts doing balcony concerts in Italy are, the dolphins swimming through the canals are, the dirt I choose to put my hands in my own yard is part of my loving circle. And I allow it to love me. I recognize that those bird songs are for me. I recognize that those flowers blooming are because of me and for me. And that we are in this interdependent web of gorgeousness. And that my family in Gallup are part of my circle because I chose to go watch that video feed. I chose to make myself aware of what my human family is dealing with. I picked up the phone for Joy Lynn, who lost her nephew to COVID, and made myself available to love through that phone call. I picked up the phone for my beloved Rodney Bowe, who lost his best friend this week to COVID. It is through those relationships, it is through that connection that we are able to expand our circle of love, able to be in the embodiment of the inherent compassion in us. And did you know that science has proven compassion is genetic? We are built for it. And it goes back farther than they can trace, back to when we were at least sharing this planet with rodents. Because in a research project they did with lab rats, they made it available for rats to hit the food bar and get food. They could get food if they hit the bar that was just right in front of them, and they could get twice as much food if they hit the bar that shocked their neighbor, that caused pain to their neighboring rat. And hands down, every time, the rat chose to hit the bar with half the food so that its neighbor rat wouldn't be harmed. It is built into us. And I believe those letters, Yad, He, Vav, He, in the shape of our human form, are a message to us from God itself saying, yo, you are built as God. You are built with kindness and compassion and love and joy and peace and harmony. It is literally worked into your genetic makeup. You don't even have to believe in God. Go to the science. But it is a choice to act like it. It is a choice to be a conscious embodiment of our true nature. It is a choice to take what feels too big and then choose to be in relationship with it. Find out What's happening in your human family? Not because I'm inviting you into despair or fear or panic, but because inherent in you is the power and the presence of the greatest force in the universe. I call God, you can call it love or spirit or Allah, Yahweh. And because we are built for it, we can take in the entirety of life. We can find out what is actually happening with our neighbors, even if it's heartbreaking. You know, part of the practice of compassion, Dalai Lama says, is we must be willing to invite others' suffering into our own experience. And I know when I think about that, like, why would I do that? Why would I invite somebody else's pain into my own body? Why would I want to feel someone else's suffering or pain? And the reason we want to is because we want to be connected. And that we can trust ourselves. We can have enough faith that we can handle it. It will not destroy us. Feelings are the language of God. Emotions are here on purpose so that we can grow our capacity to hold more love, to embody more life. And we start where we are. We start where we are. Because if you can't love your neighbor, there's some old historical fight. You can't love the folks in Washington, D.C. You start where you are. And you practice. You practice stretching yourself. You practice putting yourself in relationship with something outside of your circle. If your circle is getting smaller in this time, I invite you to do something about it. Practice the face of God in the mirror, loving yourself, and then consciously practice the face of God out in the world. And maybe for you that looks like picking up the phone and calling somebody you've been in conflict with. Maybe for you that looks like getting on a social media feed and dealing with some of the BS that somebody's posting that keeps showing up on your feed and you just want to unfollow them. Maybe it looks like going on that walk that JD described that was so beautiful and seeing the face of God and your neighbor playing bagpipes. Seeing the face of God and the stranger behind the mask at the grocery store. Growing your circle. Simply saying, hello, good morning, how are you? To whoever is 6 feet from you in line at the store. Waving when you're out on your hike on the trail. And consciously seeing those Hebrew letters on their body as a practice of identifying the holiness, the sacredness of that person. Because we love and we save what we believe is sacred. And so I invite you now, put it in the feed. How are you going to grow your circle of love? Grow what you believe to be sacred to include more this week. And I want to leave you with the guiding question that Rabbi Rami Shapiro opens the book, The Sacred Art of Loving Kindness. He says, will you engage this moment with kindness or cruelty? Will you engage this moment with love or fear? With generosity or scarcity? With a joyous heart or an embittered one? That is the question I invite you to keep at the forefront of your days right now. Ask yourself, moment to moment, am I engaging this moment with kindness or cruelty? Am I engaging that piece of news with love or with fear? Am I engaging the sound of my howling neighbors with a joyous heart or an embittered one? The choice is yours, is mine. To be that embodiment, that likeness of God. We are divine beings. Let us act like it. I love you so much.